Hey guys, Matty David from Boltzzz, and today we're going to show you how to bolt together our sponsored 32 kit car. It is the special weathered hot rod edition. As you can see, insert sponsor here, we have all of our nice weathered 32 parts that are all freshly painted and right from the factory. They were nice enough to send us all these parts right from Dearborn, Michigan. And you can see we have our pre-weathered 32 Roadster here. So what we're going to show you in this video is putting this all together. We're going to use simple hand tools, show you how easy it is with our sponsors kit here. We're going to put it all together, show you guys how easy it is. I'm not even going to get my hands dirty in this video, and it's going to look great and only take a few minutes. So let's get started. All right, so I got our axle in the vise here, and one thing to mention with this, I think I mentioned in other videos, but I know a lot of people don't watch every video. So when you're putting these axles together, the original type axles, they actually, this hole that locks the kingpin in place on both sides is tapered. So you want this lock pin or wedge, the flat face of it, the non-threaded end is actually the face, is the front of it. So this tapered end, you will know that it will fit in this way. You can slide it in by hand. If you go on the other sade, the shoulder catches, so that's how you know that you have the front of the axle. So I always clamp the axle in place with the front side looking at me as if I was looking at the grill or the front of the car, and we work from there. So we have that all set up. We're going to drop our kingpin in. So this car used the early 39 to 41 spindles, and these spindles, or I'm sorry, 37 to 41 spindles, the round backs. These spindles and these square backs, all the ones that were used commonly when doing a juice brake conversion, they were cross steer, so that's why there's two sets of holes here. Don't be alarmed by that if you buy a stock set at a swap meet. A lot of times I just lop that off, the extra hole, because it's not needed when you're doing a side steer car. This car, because we're kind of doing it basically how it was built, we're going to leave that in place just because that's just something I like to do when I'm building a car that is kind of like a, if you want to call it a restoration, but a nostalgic car. We'll leave some stuff alone. So got this on this style also, the bearing goes on the bottom, and we will see when we put this together how tight it is, if it's going to need a shim or not. So this is the lock where the wedge goes. There's a little slot in there, so try and turn that if you can towards the inside. It'll just help that you don't have to turn the spindle too much. And then if you have your bushings reamed just right, you can almost by hand knock it in, but not quite. So I can get it down some. I just use a little persuader hammer, and I'll tap it down through. Keep my finger through the bottom to keep the bearing aligned. If you have your bushings reamed right, it should just be a snug fit like that. We have to just lightly tap it. It shouldn't have to smash on it. It also shouldn't just drop in without any resistance at all, especially if it's brand new. So then we line up our wedge. You also don't want to hammer this all the way down because it can go too low, but the wedge will kind of, if you have it in the right spot, will find its home, and you can tap the wedge in, and it probably just lifted this just a hair. That's where it needs to live. So nice and tight. It has just a little bit of resistance. This one doesn't need any shims underneath because everything's nice and tight on this particular one. Depending on your spindles, if they're really worn, or your axle, the top of your axle, you may need to shim it a bunch to get out any play. But this one, luckily, does not have that. So that's the passenger side done. Now I'll throw the driver's side in. I already have the bearing set up on that one. Also notice when we painted everything, we taped off the top, these surfaces here on there, just because if you put too much paint on there, it'll actually make it hard to slide it on, and the paint could break away. I want a real life thickness there. I don't want anything that's faked by paint that you might think that it needs no shims, and then as it moves, the paint's going to break away and you may have looseness in there. So we usually tape that off so it's bare, and then you can it usually has grease on it anyways, so. Find our lock pin. Okay, goes there. so it was a crazy week. We had a lot to get done, and we somehow managed to get it all done, even with Mike and I traveling for 2 days. We were able to get the body pulled off, the chassis all painted, chassis put back together. It's nice when you have extra parts in stock. A lot of the stuff I had ordered ahead of time, preemptively, knowing that we were eventually going to be putting this back together. So I had all the shackle bushings and a lot of that stuff just right in stock, so to speak. And everything went together relatively easy. There's a couple of little things that fought us, but overall, not too bad. The body's down on the frame. We were just discussing how much nicer the car looks already just with having a frame that isn't all scaly and rusty, just having something that's black and, you know, not rot holes along the whole bottom of the car. It looks half decent, if I must say so myself. So very happy with how it all is coming out, and huge progress. So this is really awesome. So now we could start kind of just reassembling the car, put the steering box back in and clean that up and paint the, you know, this box itself and drag link, etc., get this thing so that it steers. Now, one thing I do have to do is we put the 34 Columbia rear in the car. The radius rod brackets are actually at an incorrect angle, so I need to modify either the radius rods or modify the brackets so that they all connect. I actually have to kind of make a torque tube or shorten a torque tube to make it work. So there's a little bit of modifications need to be done, but we are rolling in the right direction, and as always, we will update you guys as we're working on the car. But man, I can already see this thing and how cool it's going to look when it's all back together. So thank you guys for following along. Let me know what you think of the 32 Roadster and how it's coming along. Thanks, guys. Catch you later.